Okay, back in it yet again. I want to look at some more features on just the calculator function. So I'm going to make a new document. Nope. And yep, we're just playing still with the calculator. Now your cast does have a lot of abilities that your non-cast one wouldn't have. I was telling you you could do stuff with variables. So let's say we want to do something like, I'm going to get a fraction, so control divide. I want to do 1 over x plus 1 over y. Or you could do it like this, 1 over y. If you hit enter, yeah, it didn't really do anything because you didn't tell it really what to do with it. If we want to combine these with a common denominator, we're going to actually have to go tell it. So I wanted to show you this one. So if you go under menu, algebra, and down to fraction tools. And there are so many tools in here, by the way, that we're barely going to even scratch. And we could be here forever. It's polynomial tools. You can get your quotients and remainders, basically doing your long division and stuff. But escape will move us out of that. Okay, fraction tools, common denominator. And rather than retype it, because I don't want to retype it, I can hit up, hit enter while it's highlighted, and that copies it down. And there you go. Got our common denominator, x, y, and put it back together for us. Okay, another one that we didn't quite get to finish looking at, which is amazing to me, is the factor tool. And we tried it with, you can do it with anything pretty much. It'll factor all sorts of stuff. So there's just a quadratic. It'll give you the factors. If it's a matter of, so I was under menu, algebra, and there's factor. If it's something where there's a greatest common factor, we can make it a little more interesting than this. Minus 3x squared it'll pull the greatest common factor out. Now you can give it as advanced as you want. This thing will handle it. So if we tried something like oh, no one likes to do quadratics where you have a leading coefficient that's not 1. Maybe something like this. So many methods, we're not really good at doing them. It'll do it. If you have it factor polynomials, we have just finished doing this in one of my classes. Okay, I'm frustrating myself because I'm trying to use the keypad to play fair with you. It's driving me crazy. I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. The new-fashioned way, I guess. Okay, so if you want to factor a cubic, it's going to give you all 3 factors, just like that. So it saves you all the hassle of trying to do it. Now, you start running into a couple things when you get to factors that don't come out pretty, because these ones all had nice integer factors. You could just type it in. So what if I want to factor x squared plus 5x plus 5. Okay, this doesn't have nice pretty factors. You can't think of 2 numbers that'll multiply to 5 and add to 5. So it didn't do anything. Well, you can kind of force it to do a little bit better, because by default when it factors, it's trying to look for rational factors. And there isn't. This thing will still factor, they'll just be irrational. So if you hit Control Enter, it'll still try to do it. It's just going to give you the irrational ones. But it rounded those, so this really is less useful. But it does let me know what my zeros would be. Another way to do that, to force it to do that, is if you put a comma x. So I'm telling it to factor this with x. And once I've done that, well, now it knows how far to go, and it's going to even give us irrational factors. That still doesn't look that friendly. Boy, that one might be better. That's nasty looking. Okay, but what if you have one where you don't even have rational factors? That was a bad one. Let me give you, let's try, No, let's just do with that. So let's try, that was a 7. Yeah, still couldn't do it. And even if I hit Control Enter, it still couldn't do it. That's because your roots, it's not they're rational or irrational, they're not even real. Well, we can still do it. You just have to tell it that that's what you want. So I'm going to put a C in the front. We want to get the complex factors. Now, it doesn't do this by default because maybe you're not to that point and you only want to factor it with the reals, and if it doesn't give you those, then you don't want to worry about that yet. So you don't want I's showing up on every number you do. You don't want to have, if one of your roots is 4, you don't want it to say 4 plus 0I every time you deal with one. But if you put the C in front, it's going to go all the way down. It's going to try to give you your I's and everything. And if you wanted, I think it's under Menu Algebra. Oh, I was wondering if we had a... Yeah, so you have a complex. If you go down to complex and then factor, that's where you can pull up the C factor. Or you can still just type it in like we just did. But if you had, let's do one a little more friendly like. Yeah, x minus 3i, x plus 3i. A really cool one too is expand. This basically does the same thing but backwards. You can give it your 2 factors and it'll do all the foiling, the distributing, and bring it all the way back out for you. This is almost like legal cheating for us as teachers. So keep this in mind too. One of the goals is to try to increase your ability on what you can do as a teacher. So not necessarily what will be for your students. You might not even have a class set of these calculators. So some of the things we do aren't of the mindset of you're going to use this with your kids. Some of it is a tool for you. And I use this one a lot because I don't know how many times I've tried to come up with maybe a polynomial, and I don't want to FOIL that all the way out by hand to get the expanded polynomial with those as my factors. Maybe you want to try to get one with, let's put another parenthesis in there. Maybe you want a repeated 0. So this, as a teacher, this gives you the ability to generate a polynomial from the factors or generate the factors from a polynomial. Some great shortcuts. You're getting your complex things, able to check your responses. So it increases what you can do as opposed to what tool the students might have. Does that argument make sense? I hope it does. Let me see. The solving feature is another one. I think this one is just incredibly powerful as well. So you could solve. Now you got to make sure you put in a full equation. If you leave it as an expression, it can't do it, and you have to tell it comma what you're solving for, and it'll do it. So you could also go. You can just hit the numbers to get in your menu, and then if you wanted to do a quadratic, or really any degree for that matter, it would still be able to solve it. You know what? Just to make the point, you can use any variable you want as long as you tell it that's what you're solving for. You can even solve just algebraically, like distance equals rate times time. You can solve it for t. So you could solve algebra solve if I wanted to do volume equals, let's get a nice fraction. If I want to do the volume of a sphere, I'm just going slower. I'm trying to type it in with the handheld. I don't need to always go faster than you just because I can type on the keyboard. But you can solve it for R. You could take any of your formulas and solve for another one. Very powerful. You know, it treats, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, you have to be careful how you type in your variables. If I did 2, you know, I could do 2x plus 3x, and it'll add them. If I did 2 apples plus 3 apples, it's not going to treat that as A times P times P times L times E times S. It thinks you just typed in variable named apples. So AB is not the same as A times B. It'll recognize it as that, as a kind of a combination, as a, I guess, a whole name for an unknown. You know, you can't add different like terms, so you can even you can't combine apples and oranges. Okay, I want to get a new page. I want to show you something else too. So another nice piece is sort of teaching the students a process rather than teaching them the concept rather than just punching it out. So let's say we wanted to solve this. I know the CAS can solve it. You can go to menu and pick solve, and it would do it lickety-split, and it would have no problem with it. But maybe you want to show the student the steps through it. You know, it's a good visualization tool. So I just typed in my equation, 3x plus 4 equals 19. So the first step, it would be to subtract 4. So I was cheating by using my button. I should have just typed in minus 4. There we go. So what that's going to do is it's going to take your equation and minus 4 from both sides. Now this might be a notation we're not quite familiar with, but if you've ever seen students from other countries, I had a Canadian student once or something, this is how they handled their equations. They wouldn't write minus 4 down here, minus 4 down here. They did it like this. So what this did, this minus 4 from both sides. But then I can see if I was doing it right. So then what would be the next step? Divide by 3. So it's going to take your 3x equals 15, divide all of it by 15, and it worked. You got your answer. And you can always check it out. So I could always say, well, I'm going to go back to my original, hit enter to copy it down. Your such that tool under control equals over here. Control equals x equals 5. So I'm just reevaluating my equation with the answer I thought I had. It tells me true. Yes, I did it. It wouldn't necessarily always do that. If I solved it bad, it'll let me know. Let's try to solve one a little bit trickier. So I'm going to get a clean page because we can start right back at the top. So I've got 5x, 5x plus 7 equals 3x plus 1. And the calculator takes it just fine. It didn't do anything. Just telling it to do this doesn't mean your calculator is going to solve it. So it hasn't done anything yet, unless we gave it the command solve and put it in. But I'm going to actually work it out. So let's say we were having our students help us do this, and the student said, well, let's add a 3x to both sides. It didn't help. So it's almost a good way to catch whether you're doing it right or wrong, because they can recognize a common mistake. Because on their work on their paper, they might have put a plus 3x, because in their head they thought, well, that'll get rid of the 3x. Now they have an 8x plus 7 equals 1. But you can see, you can dress a common mistake because the calculators, it won't proceed incorrectly if you told it to do the wrong bit. It did exactly what we told it. So now you have your choice from here to either keep going or go back. But if you want to keep going from here, maybe we caught our mistake. And then we can minus a 7, and then you can divide by a 2, and we got it. And you can go right back up to the beginning like I did before. Control, grab our little such that, and I can even just go up to highlight it, hit enter, copies it, true. So we know we did it right. Okay, I think I'm going to stop this right here. I'm going to wrap this up for the whole calculator function of it. So from the home page, this first little button right here, we have just beat this to death for a little bit right here. All sorts of other cool menu options. Maybe we'll get more time to come back and check it out. Or you're free to look at it. Also, ask if there's anything you wish you had a calculator. It could do what? What do you wish you had a calculator that could do? What would be awesome for it? Because it probably does it, or if it doesn't, there's a way to get it to do it, or some extension for it, or something. I've had a hard time stumping these, and I've always had participants come up with some wacky idea of something they'd want to try that I never even thought about. So if you have something, also put that in the comments below. I'm going to post some questions for you I'm going to have you respond to, but I'm going to wrap this up for all the calculator pages that we've been dealing with. I hope this was helpful. All right, well, good night. We'll see you later.